We booked a 12-day Viking Mediterranean cruise, expecting a more refined, adults-only experience than we had found on much larger cruise ships. But Viking was also considerably more expensive, especially after upgrading to an Explorer suite and adding the Silver Spirits drinks package. So, after sailing from Barcelona to Venice aboard Viking Sea, did the smaller ship, quieter atmosphere and more personalised service justify the additional cost? In this video, we'll share our honest experience and rate the suite, dining, facilities, excursions, entertainment and service, including what Viking did particularly well, what disappointed us, and what we would do differently next time. Welcome to Rob and Nawa Travels, where we share our cruise experiences and research to help you make a more informed decision before booking. We arrived at the cruise terminal around an hour before the official 11 a.m. boarding time and was surprised by just how calm and quiet the check-in process was. With Viking Sea carrying only around 930 passengers, there were none of the long queues we had experienced on larger ships carrying 3,000 or 4,000 guests. One of the first things we noticed after boarding was how calm and refined the ship felt. The modern Scandinavian design, open spaces, and understated decor created a relaxed atmosphere from the moment we stepped on board. The passenger mix was also noticeably different from what we had experienced on larger, more family-focused cruise ships. Most guests appear to be mature travellers, predominantly couples around our age, along with some passengers who look to be well into their 80s. The atmosphere was peaceful and distinctly adult-focused, with none of the noise, crowds or family-oriented attractions commonly found on much larger ships. For this cruise, we had decided to go all out and booked an Explorer suite. One benefit of booking this category was that we could access our suite as soon as we boarded. Guests staying in some of the other stateroom categories were given staggered access times, with certain cabins not available until around 2 p.m, presumably to give the crew enough time to prepare them after the previous passengers had disembarked. Our Explorer suite was located on deck 3 at the front of the ship. On entering, you step directly into a spacious living area with a comfortable lounge, television and plenty of room to relax. There was also a minibar stocked with a selection of local beers and small bottles of spirits, although no wine. The minibar was included in our fare and replenished daily. A coffee machine was also provided with a selection of different coffees, although my preference was usually to visit one of the lounge bars in the morning for a couple of specialty coffees. There were plenty of charging points throughout the suite, but if you travel with several phones, cameras, watches and other devices, we would still recommend bringing a USB charging hub for added convenience. Sliding glass doors opened onto a private balcony with an outdoor table and chairs, along with a single sun lounger. Having only one lounger seemed a little unusual for a suite designed for 2 people, although this may have been due to the limited space around the corner section of the balcony. Large sealed windows at the front of the suite also provided views towards the bow of the ship. Inside, there was a separate dining table which proved especially useful whenever we ordered room service, a convenience we took advantage of several times during the cruise. The bedroom was spacious enough to accommodate a king-size bed, which we found very comfortable. There was also plenty of room underneath the bed to store our suitcases, helping to keep the cabin uncluttered. The bathroom was probably the highlight of the Explorer suite. It featured a double vanity with generous benchtop space and enough shelving to store everything we needed. Viking's own Fraser toiletries were provided and replenished daily. One thoughtful feature found in Viking's bathrooms is the heated floor, which was particularly welcome on cooler mornings. The suite also included a good-sized separate shower and bathtub, along with a television cleverly built into the bathroom mirror. Storage was another strong point. There were separate hanging wardrobes, plenty of drawers and even a dedicated makeup desk, which Nawa made very good use of. There were, however, 2 things we did not particularly like. The first was the occasional noise from the theatre, which was located directly below us on deck 2. It was never loud enough to become a serious problem, but we could sometimes hear the low hum of music during evening performances and even during daytime rehearsals. The second issue was the suite's location at the very front of the ship. Most of Viking Sea's main restaurants are located towards the rear, so walking to and from dinner could take close to 10 minutes each way. That may not sound significant, but it is worth considering if you have limited mobility. Explorer suites and standard staterooms located towards the rear of the ship would be much more convenient for accessing the dining venues. So, was the Explorer suite worth the additional cost? On our sailing, it cost more than twice as much as a standard stateroom, and we are not convinced we received twice the value. The extra space, large bathroom and separate living area were certainly enjoyable, but in reality we did not spend a great deal of time in the suite. Most days were spent on excursions, relaxing by the pool or enjoying the lounges and public areas around the ship. We were very happy with the suite's comfort, space and facilities, but we are not sure we would pay the same premium again. Overall, we rated our Explorer suite 8 out of 10. When it came to dining, Viking Sea offered more than enough variety. Guests in every stateroom category have the opportunity to make at least one reservation at Viking's two specialty restaurants, the Chef's Table and Manfredi's Italian restaurant. The Chef's Table serves a fixed tasting menu that changes every few days. It is worth checking the menu before your reservation to make sure it suits your preferences. As this was our first Viking cruise, we did not realise this beforehand. Unfortunately, the menu on the evening of our booking featured several beef dishes, which did not suit Noah's taste, so our experience was not particularly enjoyable. That said, the food itself was well prepared, beautifully presented and served with matching wines for each course. Our disappointment was more about the menu not suiting us personally than the quality of the restaurant. Manfredi's is Viking's Italian-inspired specialty restaurant, offering a selection of steaks, seafood and pasta dishes. There was plenty of variety, including several dessert choices, and we particularly enjoyed the selection of breads served with the meal. Like the Chef's Table, Manfredi's normally requires a reservation. However, on one occasion we were able to secure a walk-in table when the restaurant was not fully booked. You may also have some success without a reservation if you are prepared to wait around an hour after opening, once some of the earlier guests have finished their meals. Viking also has several walk-in dining venues. The restaurant is the main dining room and is open for breakfast, lunch and dinner. It offers a changing daily menu alongside a selection of familiar favourites that remain available throughout the cruise. We found the food to be consistently good, although not exceptional, with enough variety to suit both our tastes. More often than not, however, our preferred place to eat was the Well Cafe. This is Viking's buffet-style restaurant, and Noah found it more appealing because she could see the food and choose exactly what she wanted, rather than ordering from a menu without knowing what the finished dish would look like. The Well Cafe is open for breakfast, lunch and dinner, with enough variety to satisfy almost any preference. On certain evenings, it also offers themed dining, including seafood nights and other regional or international specialties. There was an excellent dessert selection, along with an ice cream station. The relaxed atmosphere, freedom to choose our own portions, and ability to try several different dishes meant that we returned to the Well Cafe for many of our meals. For something lighter, Mamson's is located in the Explorer's Lounge and serves an early breakfast, snacks, cakes and savoury items throughout the day. It opens around 6:30 a.m, making it especially convenient for early risers. Mamson's is best known for its Scandinavian-style waffles, but there were also pastries, open sandwiches and Norwegian-inspired treats. Another favourite of ours was afternoon tea in the Winter Garden, served daily at around 4 p.m. each day. Located beside the main pool, it was a popular and relaxing place to spend part of the afternoon. There was a huge selection of teas, including several varieties we had never heard of before. Afternoon tea was served on a traditional tiered stand with sandwiches, cakes and assorted sweet and savoury delicacies. A full bar was also available, although alcoholic drinks and other beverages were charged separately unless you had purchased the Silver Spirits package. Just outside the Winter Garden was the Pool Grill, which served simple lunchtime favourites such as burgers, hot dogs and salads. We found it particularly convenient when relaxing by the pool. Rather than changing clothes or giving up our seats to visit an indoor restaurant, we could order something nearby and continue enjoying the pool area. One of the advantages of sailing with Viking is that beer, wine and soft drinks are included with lunch and dinner, regardless of which restaurant you choose. The complimentary wines are generally selected from the regions throughout which the ship is sailing, although the choice is fairly limited. Drinks ordered outside mealtimes are charged to your onboard account unless you purchase the Silver Spirits beverage package. The package costs an additional $27 per person per day. Although Nawa does not drink alcohol, we still found the package to be excellent value. It gave us access to a much wider selection of wines, spirits and cocktails that could otherwise have added considerably to our onboard spending. It also covered Nawa's mocktails, which typically cost around $8 to $12 each, and sometimes more in the premium lounges. Overall, we rated Viking Sea's dining choices and food quality 7 out of 10. Every venue offered a good selection of well-prepared food, and the service was consistently excellent. However, while the food was good, we did not find the overall dining experience exceptional. The variety of venues was a definite strength, and we never had difficulty finding something we both enjoyed. When it came to onboard facilities, Viking Sea offered plenty of choices without ever feeling overcrowded. Throughout the ship, there were numerous lounges of different sizes, many with small libraries where you could sit quietly and read. Several places also displayed interesting artefacts, artwork and stories connected to Nordic history and culture. We would have liked more time to explore the book collections and read about some of the displays, but the reality of cruising is that there is always something else to do and never quite enough time to do everything. For guests interested in keeping active, there was a modest but reasonably well-equipped fitness centre on Deck 1. It included several cardio machines, free weights and a separate exercise room. We used the gym a few times and found it perfectly adequate for a basic workout. However, it could become quite busy in the mornings before breakfast, and occasionally we had to wait for the equipment we wanted. Located next to the fitness centre was the Nordic Spa, which was one of the most relaxing parts of the ship. It included a hydrotherapy pool, sauna, heated relaxation areas, and Viking's unusual snow grotto, a chilled room where artificial snow is produced. Unfortunately, the snow grotto was out of order on both occasions when we wanted to try it. There were also plenty of lounges where guests could simply relax, and one of the best things about the Nordic Spa was that access was included in the cruise fare. It was not restricted to certain cabin categories and did not require an additional payment. The changing rooms were spacious, clean and well equipped, with additional spa facilities inside each one. They also contained miniature swimwear dryers that could remove most of the water from your swimsuit in less than a minute. A small but extremely useful feature. There are also free self-service laundrettes on each accommodation deck, and Viking supplied the washing detergent. This was particularly useful on a 12-day cruise and meant we did not need to pack as many clothes or pay for the ship's laundry service. The top deck offered outdoor activities, including mini-golf, along with several seating areas where guests could enjoy views from the highest point on the ship. With almost uninterrupted views of the ocean and surrounding scenery, it was a pleasant place to spend time while sailing. We did feel that the area would have been even better with a small bar and perhaps a whirlpool. Both would have made it an ideal place to relax with a drink and enjoy the near 360-degree views. Overall, we rated Viking Sea's onboard facilities 8 out of 10. One of the main features of any Viking cruise is the inclusion of at least one complimentary excursion in every port. These are normally designed to provide a broad introduction to the destination through a guided walking tour, a panoramic coach tour, or a combination of both. On many excursions, the coach took us past some of the main landmarks before dropping us at a central location. We were then given time to explore independently before meeting the group for the journey back to the ship. As first-time Viking cruisers, we chose the included excursion in almost every port without paying too much attention to the optional paid alternatives. These range from around $50 per person to several $100 depending on the destination and experience. With hindsight, we should have examined those optional excursions more carefully. Naples was a good example. The included excursion provided a general coach-based overview of the city and some of its best-known landmarks. However, with better planning, we probably would have chosen an optional excursion to Pompeii to visit the famous archaeological site. There were also a few days when, given the opportunity again, we might have skipped the excursion entirely and enjoyed a quiet day on board rather than joining the crowds at some of the busiest tourist destinations. Venice was the clearest example. From the port, the journey into Venice took around 90 minutes by ferry. Once we arrived, the number of visitors was difficult to describe. The bridges, streets, shops and major landmarks were packed with people from cruise ships as well as land-based tours. Venice was the final port on our itinerary, and with hindsight we might have skipped the included excursion or selected a quieter optional experience, such as visiting a winery in the surrounding countryside. After disembarking the following morning, we stayed in Venice independently for another night. The difference later in the day was remarkable. From around 4 p.m. into the early evening, many of the daytime crowds had disappeared, and exploring the city became far more relaxed and enjoyable. For us, that was a much better way to experience this vibrant part of Italy. Overall, we rated Viking's included excursions 7 out of 10. They were generally well organised and provided a useful introduction to each destination. But we learned that the complimentary option is not always the best choice in every port. We have already published a separate detailed video covering the ports we visited and our experience on each excursion. We'll include a link in the description and place that video on screen at the end. When choosing a Viking ocean cruise, it is important to understand that the entertainment is very different from what you might find on a larger mainstream cruise ship. Viking does not have casinos, major Broadway-style productions, or late-night deck parties. The atmosphere is quieter and more understated. The theatre, located directly below our suite, was where most passengers gathered after dinner for the main evening performance. This could include a musical show, a visiting act, or a performance featuring members of the onboard entertainment team. We also saw other acts during the cruise, including an ABBA-style tribute group. Most theatre performances finished at around 9 p.m, after which many passengers appeared to head back to their cabins in preparation for the following day's excursions. On a couple of evenings, however, we continued the night at Tórshavn, Viking's late-night cabaret lounge. It normally opened at around 9 p.m. and had the appearance of an elegant 1940s nightclub with subdued lighting, comfortable seating and a more intimate atmosphere. It was a pleasant place to listen to livelier music, enjoy a dance and order some of the premium cocktails, wines and almanacs available on board. Our Silver Spirits drinks package certainly proved useful here, especially as some of Nawa's mocktails were priced at more than $15 each. For anyone considering the Viking drinks package, we have produced a separate video explaining what is included, what is not, and whether we thought it offered good value. We'll include a link in the description and place that video on the end screen if you're interested. Elsewhere around the ship, solo musicians and duos performed in several lounges during the busier parts of the day and evening. The Explorers Lounge also hosted a popular trivia session most nights. Apart from the livelier music in Tórshavn, much of the entertainment leaned towards classical music, acoustic performances and relaxed background listening. It suited Viking's calm and refined atmosphere, although passengers looking for energetic nightlife and major production shows may find the options limited. Overall, we rated Viking's entertainment 7.5 out of 10. It was polished and appropriate for the type of cruise Viking offers, but entertainment was not the main attraction of the experience. Service was one of Viking Sea's strongest areas. Throughout the cruise, we found the crew professional, friendly and efficient without the service ever feeling overly formal. Our suite was kept clean and well maintained, and the minibar, coffee supplies and bathroom toiletries were replenished daily. The restaurant and bar staff were attentive, and the service remained consistent, whether we were dining in one of the specialty restaurants, the main dining room, or a casual menu. The excursion teams were also well organised, particularly when coordinating several groups leaving the ship at similar times. There will always be small variations between individual staff members, but overall we encountered very few issues and felt well looked after throughout the cruise. We rated Viking service 8.4 out of 10. So, who do we believe Viking Ocean is best suited to? Viking is likely to appeal most to mature travellers and couples who prefer a smaller ship, a peaceful, adults-only atmosphere, and itineraries focused on the destinations rather than onboard attractions. It is a good choice if you value refined Scandinavian design, comfortable public spaces, good service, included access to the spa, and a generally relaxed onboard environment. When it comes to overall value, Viking is not the least expensive way to cruise the Mediterranean, particularly when compared with some cruise lines that include more drinks and gratuities in their fares. Overall, we rated our Viking Ocean cruise 7.7 out of 10. We have included a full breakdown of our scores in the description below for anyone who would like to examine the ratings in more detail. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like and subscribe to Robin Harbour Travels. We would also love to hear from you in the comments. Have you sailed with Viking before? And what did you enjoy most, or least, about the experience? And if you are considering a Viking Mediterranean cruise, watch our detailed video about the ports and excursions next. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.